So guys, we all have experience of this time of a week where it's not the rehearsal, it's not the Sunday service, where we have to put together what we refer to as a set list or a song list. And let's have a discussion about how do you approach that. I want to hear stories of how we made some mistakes in the past, things that we felt like we did very well. And then we all have different strengths in that department, so that's why we're all here.
Yeah, some of our mistakes are bigger than others. Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
it depends. So I want to start off with let's talk about how do we translate what was being said in maybe a leadership meeting or a service planning meeting, and then we have to take that either by ourselves or to a team, and we have to start picking songs. How do we translate what was said there into that space?
Definitely 3-day fast.
3-day
and pray.
Is it now fast songs or
Fasting.
Fasting, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right. Are there any
That's
other ideas?
definitely a
perhaps?
yeah, that one doesn't fit well with me.
No, but I think we sometimes people feel like that's all we do. We sit under a tree and just dream of new songs to sing, and we know that ministry works differently. There's a lot of things happening during the week. And so do you create space specifically just to go do that and just to go spend some time on maybe thinking about how can I translate that into worship?
I think it starts a lot sooner than just the Tuesday morning discussion on next week or in 2 weeks' time. That's the sermon theme. I think it starts a lot sooner than that.
Yes.
We have a rhythm whereby, having heard what is on the Doxa Deo leadership's heart for the next season, we go and sit down and talk about the next year and the themes that in that year are going to be prominent. So as a team, we have an idea of what we believe is on God's heart for our local church. And that's the place where I normally start. Okay, if these are the themes that are going to be surfacing over the next year, my ears and eyes are now opening for songs that have those kinds of themes in them. So my set list actually starts a year before the Sunday event.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's a important discussion to lead up to that point, because I think if these discussions do not take place, that weekly one is
That's pressure.
an incredible task.
Yeah.
Well, in size, I mean. And the pressure on that is, if you don't have a guideline and a platform from which we choose songs, I think it's too big, it's gigantic.
You need a process.
So you need to, in a way, have many things in place, which I think I had to learn over years, which then make the Tuesday or one day going a week or 2 or 3 in advance very, very easy. And I think those are the things that we probably need to discuss now.
It also helps probably to have a larger perspective. I mean, the whole mission of Family on Mission, local church, we are city changers. It's the engagement in city for the transformation of society. So any song that has that as its theme or outcome is going to be eligible for somewhere in one of my set lists. I'm probably going to pull it in somewhere because it's carrying the heart of the Doxa Deo ministry's focus. And no matter how popular the songs are that are telling me that Jesus is coming again to take me away from all of this.
Hallelujah.
One day in heaven.
Yeah,
Can't wait
I'm
for glory
not going to
land.
want to use those songs because they're not communicating necessarily where we as a ministry place our primary focus, city transformation.
Okay, but what do you do when you have this process and then here from the side, you have that one worship team that keeps asking, listen, we want to sing this, or a congregation member, or even a team member or a team leader saying, listen, and so how do you handle that? You just give in and say, okay, this is your favorite, let's sing that as well?
Well, for a little bit of cash, I'll sing any song. I'll just put in the
Jukebox, throw in the
No, that's how people sometimes treat us, It's really, my mother-in-law's coming all the way from this town. It's her favorite song.
Yeah.
She always wanted this song. It was sung in the 1200s and she would love it again, But I think to enable us to answer that, we need to have, I think, the content that we want to sing, the importance of music and how people forget a sermon, can't remember the 3 main points, but they can sing the chorus in the car afterwards.
Exactly.
So if we talk at guys, whatever we sing, remember the guys won't forget it. So it's quite important what we sing. And I think the other thing, and I hope I'm not jumping the gun too soon, but the stylistic expression as well. Because people, if we consider that in the week, and one of the favorite songs that people want to bring is a hymn that was sung in the 1500s that nobody knows or can sing today, or that only works with an organ that you don't have anymore. You have a tricky one if you're not saying this is not the kind of style. So I think before you can make that decision on what we sing, yes, what do we want to hear when we sing in terms of content? What is the kind of style that people feel familiar with? Because the big mistake that I've once made, because I studied a bit of jazz music, is I thought, let's spice it up a little, you know.
With 5/4 time signatures.
Yes. No, maybe not 6, there yet. 7, but a few jazz chords in between, and the music, very musical amongst the band. They enjoyed it, and we put it into the Sunday set list, and afterwards, the majority of people come in and say, listen, what went wrong in the third song? And something was way off. And the worship team,
jazz.
And they said, listen, you just play a lot of jazz, man, don't. So they didn't appreciate the style, even though we thought, this is great. So we had to narrow down so that when we choose the songs, we know these songs work. Because they're stylistically easy, palatable to the people. The theme is right. And if you have a list of 30 songs that at the beginning of a season or a year or a theme, you've got them ready. Then choosing them becomes safe. Otherwise, every song have to be checked every week. All the styles have to be checked. That is too big a task.
Yes. No, I have many stories of making mistakes with regards to this. And I remember as a young worship leader, whenever our campus pastor would say, this is the theme for the Sunday, or present the sermon, I would go and find all the keywords that he spoke about and choose all of those songs in a set. It's almost as if we sing another sermon in that sense. But I think, we have to think about, it's a time of worship. We want people to respond to God. And yes, one of those songs can be added, but it's a journey that we take people on. It's not, you don't sing the sermon necessarily in the beginning of the set. So you have to be sensitive to take people on that journey of response.
Right. I don't know if you mentioned that. I know you've done a session where you've just given outlines on how to set together a set list. I don't know if you've mentioned that, but for me, the two questions I'm always asking when I'm sitting down to prepare a set list is, God, what do you want to say to us? And God, what do you want to hear from us? Those are the two questions I'm always asking. And that's guiding me in a sense in, all right, so what's the conversation going to be about?
What's the conversation?
That's the revelation and the response.
Right, yes.
So God, what do you want to say to us?
Yeah.
And then how can we respond fittingly to that opportunity? And I think that flow of content, of the journey, as a young person, I thought, I have a very good friend who helped me understand how this works. We went to a function once. It was a year-end function. So he came with a shirt and shorts that were completely mismatched. It's from different eras in the world, you know. And it was so clashing to me. I said, listen, what have you done? It doesn't match at all. He said, what do you mean? It's my favorite shirt and my favorite shorts.
That's beautiful.
I said, yes, but they don't go together. So I think sometimes...
Not the same WhatsApp group.
No, buffering all the time. But I mean, here you have sometimes great songs that thematically is within what you want to say, that in the style is what you want to say. So it should be, take 5 from a hat, and it should work, but then it doesn't. And I learned that also in the hard way, because I once in a set, we sang this Afrikaans song, Die Koning is here, the King is here. The whole chorus is, God is here. You're the King of my life. Beautiful song, everybody in worship, God is here. So the next song I sing, I think it was a Planet Shakers song where the chorus went, Jesus, I'm longing for you. Jesus, I'm yearning for you.
So what happened?
So in the meeting feedback,
He's not
they said,
there anymore.
He was here, and where did Jesus go?
He went to a different church.
Now we long for him again.
We long for him again. So he's here, he's gone, he's here, he's gone. But it was 2 of my greatest songs in a set. I thought it's an obvious win, you know. And I completely missed the journey. Where you're going, what's the revelation moment? Where do we respond to that? And where's their moment of allowing that to minister to us? It takes years to really follow that flow, but if you're intentional about it and test it with other people and say, listen, look at that song, and don't ask somebody that is not in this discussion already for some time. Does it make sense, the journey we're going on? I think over years, it will start clashing to you. But unless you're intentional and you learn the lessons, you might, like me, have your favorite shirt and your favorite shorts in a set. And it doesn't work.
Let's talk about managing flow, because you're mentioning that now, and it's very important because we all know it's a worship time. Let's refer to it as the worship time, not just the set, because does not consist of 4 or 5 songs in isolation of each other.
No.
Well, it shouldn't. Yeah.
It shouldn't. It shouldn't.
But if you do karaoke, it works.
It works great.
Not on Sundays.
Not on Sunday.
And I think the problem is either we fall into the rut of it has to be 2 fast songs, 1 medium, and then 1 or 2 slow songs, and then
and a 6/8 somewhere.
6/8 somewhere.
Just to bring the anointing in.
Yes.
Just to bring, but that's the trap we fall into. That it has to have this flow. And also, I think we tend as worship leaders to want to gravitate towards the epic songs, the big songs, the ones that take you on this journey. But no story that you ever, no movie, no story, no great experience is just a peak. Ever. It's impossible. You have to get there. It's a journey of going through the valley, through over the top, seeing the viewpoint, then go, So how do you manage that? How do you approach that? When you pick songs, do you think this is where, this is the peak, or do you start with the valley, or how do you think of this, about this?
And don't look my way. Look that way.
You have the most experience with this.
But you know what, and maybe just to kickstart it in a way, something Jager said years ago resonated with how I was putting a worship time together, because I found it very hard to try and align the whole worship set with the sermon.
Yes.
And he said something that I recognized. I felt guilty every time people said, you do preach the sermon and you get the hearts open for that message, and you open the door so that the preacher comes and it just deposits that truth in your heart.
Yes.
And I felt, it doesn't always work for me like that. But in my preparation, going through a set, I would play on the piano or the guitar and go through it. And there are moments that I think the Holy Spirit gives me a little peek of what is to come. And that happens more often than not.
Yes.
Where I think something's going to happen here. And Yanni said it many years ago, and I said that works for me that way as well. Where he also says, I don't think it's 2 different approaches, but I think often within the theme, within the songs, I think the Holy Spirit would definitely want to prepare us. Be ready for anything.
Yeah.
But hey, there's something on this song. You perhaps mentioning the peak. And we're working towards that, and you get to that point. And we had it recently, beautiful moments where you would have a song ready, and then you go into that beautiful chorus, Christ be magnified. And the whole congregation is just in this response, epic, euphoria, beautiful response to this revelation. But you sense it in your rehearsal.
Yeah.
Yes.
You anticipate it. And like you're saying, you're building that up and you reveal, and there's something about the closeness of God, and there's something about His greatness and His faithfulness. And through the years, we've seen your faithfulness, and then you get to that place where you just let go and the response is there. And I think those are the beautiful energy moments that certain songs beautifully create. And you then create that flow to really say, listen, I feel in my preparation already that the momentum might peak here, may respond here we leave space. And that people just respond and just see what just happened. God is here. He's going nowhere. And I want to worship Him.
Let's not move on.
Now, I know this has never happened to any of you. It might be other worship leaders, but never to you, where you've planned or thought that in your preparation, this is going to be that. And then in the execution of that plan, it does not happen.
Those when you feel the Holy Spirit missed it. Those ones.
Yeah.
Let's be real for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we've all had those experiences where you think, oh my word, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And then you get there, or your team isn't, you realize that you're on that journey, but it's just you.
Yes. Like for instance, if you buy socks for your wife for Valentine's, you think it's going to be amazing, but she does not respond in that way.
Gave you bad advice.
Well, socks is better than the lawnmower that you could have bought.
Yes. So then you just say sorry about everything.
But I can tell you, I've got a lot of opportunity to share how I missed it.
How much time do we have?
But I'll keep it short. I was in London, in our campus there, And I had in my planning this moment where I thought, here, revival is going to break out. You know, flames on the heads of people, nothing less.
I think that's, yeah.
So, and then we started, and we had a praise song, kicking things off in my mind. Didn't expect
just kind of getting things going.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, just get the people into the
Fire
worship
starter.
kind of thing. Yeah, and in that song, first song, there's a moment where I sense that you get those. God wants to do something, and I remember playing, saying, "God, not now, not now."
We have it coming.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. 2 songs, then
You're on in 2 minutes. You're on in 2 minutes.
Wait your moment. I mean, ignorant, how silly we can think. Luckily, many years ago, I hope I didn't do that now. But I mean, I missed that moment, and I didn't know how to respond. I wasn't mature enough to just stop and then drill when you get oil, keep drilling.
Yeah.
So I went onto that moment that I thought, and there was nothing happening there. I said, God, what now? And it's like, just smile and say, buddy,
Hey.
I had something
I was
going
there,
in another
I wanted
place.
to
you know.
speak, and you
And
didn't
I
allow
had
me.
to just sweat my way through that song, knowing it wasn't what I wanted it to be. And God had a little conversation with me and say, it's a great plan, but hey, you need to be ready for what I want to do. I want to adventure with you. I don't want to be so predictable. There's nothing that we can predict about God but His faithfulness and His love. He wants to do things, Ephesians 3:20, much bigger than what we can think or imagine. If we're not ready for it, you might miss it like I did. So.
I was in a conversation, obviously your Tuesday conversations looking back on Sundays with Alan Platt are very, very interesting. And I remember one Sunday, it was all guts and no glory. And on Tuesday, he used a very interesting analogy. He says, it was a bowling wicket this weekend, wasn't it? Or a batting wicket. And I said, okay, explain. He says, well, sometimes the wicket is of such a nature that the batsmen really come into their own and they score big time. Sometimes it's the bowlers who have all the breakthroughs. He says the preacher and the worship leader are like the batting and the bowling side of the team. And depending on what the wicket is like, depending on what's happening in the spirit, one of the two are going to have the major breakthroughs. And sometimes you're the worshiper and the worship leader, and it's not a bowling wicket, it's a batting wicket.
Sure.
And you are pouring your guts
You're
into
forcing this thing. You're forcing this
yeah,
thing.
and nothing
Not
is
the
going
moment.
anywhere. And then the pastor steps up and he opens the Bible and he starts reading his first phrase of his text. And suddenly, I mean, it's like the place is alive and God is here. Yeah, and you
the
sit
worship
there
leader just sits
and you
there.
say, yeah, you were. So why wasn't that happening when I was up there? Kind of thing. Yeah.
We're doing all
So,
the work.
And I made peace with that. There are Sundays where it's not a bowling wicket, and then it is more guts than glory. And then I don't beat myself up in a sense about my set list wasn't appropriate and this kind of stuff. But if we don't have that kind of relationship, sometimes on a Tuesday you do feel like you've let the side down and you come in with your tail between your legs. So you need to understand, in a sense, as a team, we're working on this together.
And make those learning moments.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
It's not a defeat moment. It's
No.
It's a development moment.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
I think we often feel the pressure that we have to make things happen. Like it's on us to. I think it's important for us to be open and to listen to. And in the session where I spoke about the set list and how to design, I used the analogy of going on a game drive and you're taking people on this game drive.
Right.
But it would be very ambitious for the game, the guy who's facilitating this game drive, to put it on him to make the lions appear. Like it's his responsibility that the lions show up. And the hippos jump out of the hippo dam. And it would be very ambitious for him to take that on himself. So why do we do that? And we put that on us as worship leaders to say, like, this is our responsibility. We have to evoke a response, which we realized it's not the goal. It's pointing to Christ. It's just saying, God, you want to do what you want to do. I don't want to stand in the way. We want to create the space where we can have this conversation.
Right.
How do you deal with that when you feel and that pressure of feeling, now I have to make something happen. It didn't happen in the way that I thought it would. Where's that balance?
Well, I'm seeing in John 3, I think it's around about 29, 30, John the Baptist saying he's the friend of the bridegroom. Did you mention that in your conversation?
No,
okay.
please tell.
He's the friend of the bridegroom. And when I saw that, I realized, okay, but as worship pastor, as worship leader, I'm also the friend of the bridegroom.
Yeah.
And the friend of the bridegroom is neither the bride nor the bridegroom. You have a specific role and function to fulfill, and your role and function is to facilitate a meeting of the bride and groom. There's a moment where your services, in that sense, are no longer required because the conversation between the bride and groom has begun and it's going well. You don't need to chip in that. You don't need to push the conversation in any direction. You need to hear what is happening, and you need to be present to facilitate what needs to be facilitated. You're not making stuff happen. In those moments, then, in a sense, I change gears and I become part of the bride. I'm part of the conversation with the bridegroom. And so in that sense, I'm always trying to work myself out of the conversation in setting up that worship set.
But it is hard because I think it has been used as an excuse. I think I've used it early days where I would say, listen, people didn't respond. I was faithful in bringing what I wanted. If you don't want to eat from it, it's on you.
I did what I had to do. So.
Which I think is in a way an excuse if it's not a conversation that we're having. If you're saying, guys, is there anything that we did wrong in the process by choosing a set that perhaps is not the style of the people? Which I've done, especially invited to a space, you don't find out what people know. You bring your favorite songs, the flow, the theme is great. Those people have no clue where you're at. Then I'm going, guys, it's not on me. I prepared. You guys are not with me. And I think loving people more than the joy of what you're bringing will always get you to a place where you're going, how do I serve these people? So I think there's a couple of things as a worshiper that you need to go, were I at this stage with integrity aligned to the responsibilities I have.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm ill-prepared. Things didn't work out, and I can easily use that, but I'm not the one creating the conversation. I'm bringing, and it's like, no, hang on. You sang the wrong words. You didn't know how to start the second song, and the chords were all over the place. So, so that we can't say then. But if we have really with integrity in team going, we brought and did what we could. Then we can't make the magic happen. We can just pitch, and God is faithful. He will do what He has to do. But I think as a young person, I hope other people won't, but it's easy to go, this is me, and take it or leave it. We're saying, no, you always say, God, is there anything else that I can do to serve these people more in the way that I introduce the worship set, in the volume of the sound while I'm doing it, in the loudness of the drummer or not, and the set list and the content and the flow, everything of that. But when we, with integrity, say we've brought what we could, then it's easy to go, God, we are pitching and you make it happen.
Yeah, the friend of the bridegroom in that context is obviously the one who's making sure that the distractions are minimal. And sometimes the friend of the bridegroom can be a distraction because of your expectations that you're placing on that environment.
No, go ahead.
No, I just think you should be teachable enough to also say, this song, let's cut it. It didn't work. It works all over the world, but in our environments, it's not serving this purpose.
For this season, or for this moment, it's not serving. It's while we're speaking, I see this picture of a husband and wife at a restaurant having a romantic dinner, having a conversation. You're the waiter. And between every moment, every time they start to have the conversation, you walk up to them. We've all had this experience where a waiter is annoying and he's like, come on, is everything okay? Is everything okay? Is there anything more we can do? And also, I think sometimes we fall into the trap of wanting to, we're so over-eager to want to facilitate this that we get in the way. Or things like that you said, the food might be not of good taste, so it's very difficult to have a good conversation. Or the brightness of the lights, it's it's not conducive to have a conversation. I've been in many restaurants where the music is so loud I cannot hear myself think.
Stop talking.
There's no way I'm going to have this conversation.
I'm not participating here.
So how do you manage that flow? And I know you're very, 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 very gifted and skilled in managing the flow of worship. You know, knowing when to stop and pause and just say, okay, now is the right time for the waiter to come up to the table and say, is there anything else? How do you approach that?
No, I think it's all about the sensitivity, obviously, of the spirit, but also of the people. And as a leader, you are constantly in that tension. And I think for me, it's a very practical thing. I watch the people and I listen to God.
That's important. I think young leaders need to hear it. It's not just this, you have it or you don't have it. You can learn the skill.
Yeah.
So worshiping as worship leader with your eyes closed all the time, you're
Yeah.
actually robbing yourself
Absolutely.
of the
Yes.
opportunity to note where people are, how people are responding.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's the moment in the restaurant where you actually want to order dessert, but the waiter's gone.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Like,
And when-
come on, where are you?
are you now?
Where are you? Sitting up
I
with
need
your
to
hand
hear
like this.
Sure. But I want to ask maybe on that, because I think the flow is one thing that the set list set up well will serve. But the comment, if I may, on that one song that you shouldn't have in that set list. Yeah. Because in our discussion of putting the set list together, there were those times when I think everything was in place, but the song doesn't work.
Yeah.
And we had many discussions in the past, why doesn't it? Because when that artist sings it on that YouTube channel, it is beautiful. Goosebumps
Anointed.
on your goosebumps.
Yeah,
So it should
15,000
work.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially in the style as well, and the singability, which I mean, we can't even go into that kind of.
No,
worms.
that's
we
kind of
won't.
worms.
I just want to mention the can. You know?
There's a can.
There's a
and
can.
We're not gonna.
We keep the worms
Let's
in there.
leave it there.
But this vocal person sings with this incredible range,
Right.
and it is so beautiful. And then here it doesn't work. How do we know when the joy of the experience we have in listening to that is not translatable? I know I have no answers to it. You guys have to help me. Because I sometimes feel it. I'm thinking, that's great. I can't do that song. People say, why not? Look at that. You know, it's incredible. I'm going, I don't know why not. I've been wrong at times. And other times I felt, guys, do you hear? It's not, but I can't put words to it.
I think we sometimes we get infatuated with what we experience there,
Yeah.
you know, or the video, or the way that person leads it, or that conference, or that recording, or whatever. And we have the expectation that the same experience that they had and that I had with that, I want to now take that thing and
Copy the
put it-
experience,
Copy
anyway.
the experience. I want to copy,
Yes,
I want to
sure.
duplicate the response.
Yeah.
Because and that becomes manipulation.
Yeah, because your song has now become a tool
Yes.
to manipulate
Yes.
for the
moment,
sake of
yeah.
a specific outcome.
Exactly. And
We
that's-
always have to remember that the response is to Christ, the revelation of Christ in the song, not the
Yes.
song itself.
If I just play these two minors in a row, like if you play one minor, it's one thing, but if you play two minor chords,
Yeah, that becomes spiritual manipulation.
then there's like glitter that falls from.
Yeah.
You're
Beautiful
majoring on
pattern.
minors
It
now,
must be
I'm
the
sorry.
broad piano,
Yes.
you know, with the yellow cables coming out at the side.
It has to look and feel. But we fall into this trap where we look at these people and other artists and other worship leaders and think, why do my 50 people congregation or
Yes.
my service not have the same experience as that
Yeah.
15,000 you know, arena full of people experience?
And that's the thing. If you use the analogy of the game drive, I mean, that's like putting plastic animals there and say, "Come on, guys, be in awe."
Or you have to respond this way now.
Yeah, true.
But
I found that homegrown stuff has the ability to draw a response from our people a lot quicker and a lot easier than the imported popular radio play, TV, YouTube hits. Yeah. Because it's our conversation.
Yes.
And people recognize their own voice and our own home language in the homegrown stuff.
Definitely, definitely.
I think we can end the conversation here. There's so much more to say, and I think It depends. There's so many different aspects of picking songs and working with your team. We didn't even get into the space of, but what if your team isn't ready yet or skilled yet to execute this plan that you have? I mean, that's another can.
That's the jazz.
That's the
Leave the jazz out of it for now, you know.
Keep the tracks.
But I really believe that we're never too old or too experienced or too. We've done this now 50 times or hundreds of times or thousands of times to learn this. And I really hope that when people listen to this, that it gives them hope to learn and to grow as a worship leader together with their team. So thank you so much for the time. Awesome experience.
Thanks, Morten.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Dankie, boys.
Beyond the sea.
We can't do that without a sax.